Let me talk about the film a little bit. This is the third in our series of our Arizona films, and let me just backtrack for a minute and explain to you sort of how we came to where we are right now. The first was released in July 2009. That one came to me from a gentleman in Arizona who was taking hidden camera footage, who was aware of our organization, had been sending me emails for a long time. I finally started looking at his footage, was very animated about what I found and saw, and really figured that a storyline needed to go with it. So in July 2009, we released our first film. It basically focused on hidden camera footage of large groups of illegal aliens on trails that they create through the Coronado National Forest, about 10 to 15 miles north of the border, east of Nogales. And it focused on the environmental impact. So there was lots of hidden camera footage of animals crossing the cameras and following the trash and following the people and the potential there. The result of that was that the Border Patrol put up forward operating bases to cut off those trails and close down the campsites that were in the forest associated with those trails. Because of some uproar that occurred from that film. The second film we released in July of this year, and as Mark mentioned, we were extremely surprised at how it took off virally. We had over 500,000 hits in a month on that particular one, and I think it was because not only did we focus on now 20 miles north of the border, again, treacherous mountainous terrain, large groups of 30 and more illegals passing cameras, no federal law enforcement in sight in any of the hidden camera footage, but also that we went then again north to the current hidden camera source that I work with that you saw in this film, 80 miles north of the border, using his footage, which was both the gun-toting smugglers as well as the drug cartel folks as well with the packs. That, I think, from the perspective of SB 1070 being out there when we released that film, I think the biggest outcome of that film was that even those who disagreed with SB 1070 could not negate the seriousness of the problem that Arizona was dealing with. And that, to me, was just a huge step forward in and of itself, to sort of level out that playing field of evidence that people were willing to discuss it from. So with this third film, I basically have 4 objectives with this film, and I hope that they came across. The first one was, as I say in this film itself, was to reveal the travel methods of the cartels. This is something that I've specialized in. This is what I did when I was counsel on the September 11 Commission. I detailed, terrorist travel became our thing on the commission, and we detailed the travel patterns of the hijackers. It's something that I think when I went out there to look is something that we are not doing with the cartels. We're not making it public, and I think making it public will make a big difference. And also because, just very specifically, it gives the opportunity for law enforcement to see what's going on. They probably already know, but for those who are not in the know, it gives them the opportunity to let the cartels scramble a bit, because now that some things have been revealed, they have to scramble. That gives law enforcement the opportunity to capitalize on the mistakes that the cartels might make traveling. So the second one was our discussion of what is a secure border and what does that mean. It seems that this administration, when you listen closely, you hear a lot about lower apprehension numbers. We have low apprehension numbers. Is that how we want to define secure? And does that definition take into consideration the cartels? I don't think that it does. And after you watch a film like this, is that definition of secure, lower apprehension numbers, an acceptable definition to you and to the American people? Third is simply to tell the truth about what's going on the ground. And that, to me, is a huge part of what I do. I've always considered myself, whether I was in the Senate or working for the commission, somewhat of an investigator. I guess I have a bit of a reporter in me somewhere. And to me, part of this is just about telling the truth. And the fourth is more of a policy discussion, and I'll call it the not capitulating discussion, which is to give reasons to America to not capitulate on what border security is and to give in on the meaning of that. And the reason I bring that up is recently, in the last couple weeks, the new Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, Alan Bernson, told reporters that, quote, a sealed border is unrealistic, but a perceived as secure border was an important goal. He went on to say that the border had all it needed now in terms of technology and manpower and infrastructure, and the only thing that would really make a difference in securing the border was comprehensive immigration reform. As would be expected, Secretary Napolitano says the same thing, but a little more succinctly. She recently told Congress, to the Senate, that, quote, an unprecedented amount of manpower and technology has secured the southwest border. And along with lower apprehension numbers, this clears the way for Congress to pass comprehensive immigration reform, and that is what needs to happen next. I personally don't see how those comments really pass a logic test, but that being said, and this is maybe a little bit unfair of me to do, but if you take President Obama's comments on the attacks of September 11th that probably many of you are familiar with, he made these to Woodward, and they were made public last week, and you switch out the term drug cartel for terrorist, this is what you get. We can absorb the drug cartels on our border and in every city across America. We can absorb them and we are stronger. If that is where we were going in our thinking as an American, I don't know about you, but that kind of language somewhat haunts me. So what I want to do is, I don't like spending my time railing on things or people or even the government, frankly, because there are a lot of people out there trying really hard to do their jobs, and they do them really well. And that's not my goal here. So what I want to do right now is talk about the National Guard. We are in the Army-Navy Club. And the National Guard, I think if you're talking about the cartels, the National Guard is something you have to talk about. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this current Operation Copper Cactus to the 2006 deployment of the Guard and compare them and really talk about what is sufficient to secure the border. What is it to secure the border, and what is it that we need to do? We've seen the film, I've complained, now let's look at some solutions. So, the Guard is 470,000 strong. It's been deployed to the border since 1993 consistently, and in the early years, and its predominant activity is really to build and maintain fences and bridges. But in 2006, the Guard helped secure the Yuma sector of Arizona. And today, that sector provides a model for success in securing a border sector, as San Diego did years prior to that. I'm focusing on the Guard because it's my view that the Border Patrol's mission has really never been defined as one to handle the intensity or level of threat that the drug cartels pose, nor the serious nature of the infiltration that I believe has begun to affect our national security. The Guard is well trained, they've been on the border for years, they have overseas training, and they can do more than be a deterrent. Even with posse comitatus in effect, which curtails the Guard from doing law enforcement functions, there are many things the Guard can and have done that can be effective in curtailing Mexico's escalating problems from crossing over our border. You may recall that the promise came to deploy the Guard by the President back in May. They are only now this week fully deployed. In Arizona, there will be 532 Guard for the 646 Arizona border miles. Just to put those numbers in context, a successful Guard mission from 2006 in the Yuma sector required 5,000 Guard on 126 border miles. So the scale of deployment here is significantly lower than prior deployments. Also much smaller is their mission, and I want to focus a little bit on that. This deployment is called Operation Copper Cactus, and they are to serve as eyes and ears of the Border Patrol, and they will conduct surveillance and provide intelligence to federal authorities. They are also trained to, quote, support Customs and Border Protection with entry identification teams. What this actually means, though, if you talk to folks on the border and you read between the text, is that if an illegal alien comes within the perimeter of a Guard encampment, they can approach the illegal alien and they know what to do, but they are not allowed to approach any illegal outside of their encampment. The other aspect of their work is to, quote, support ICE with criminal investigative analysts for 1 year, and they are to assist in reducing the flow of illegal bulk currency and weapons from the United States to Mexico. There is no mission there for anything coming across the border north. So if Julie wants to comment on that, I will leave that one to her. What is interesting is that the National Guard will not be doing any of its traditional work. They're not going to be building and maintaining fences and bridges. Specifically buried in the language is that they are to be a deterrent effect and not actively participate in any infrastructure building that was so key to prior missions. Here's what Arizona Attorney General and Democratic candidate for governor Terry Goddard had to say a couple weeks ago about the deployment. Quote, "These soldiers will work with the Border Patrol and will be put to good use. But the federal government needs to do more to take the fight to the organized criminals who bring most of the drugs and illegal immigrants across our border. We need to hit the cartels in Mexico with decisive, overwhelming, and binational force. Defensive steps alone will not stop these deeply entrenched, heavily armed, and well-funded organizations." And I have to say, I have a lot of respect for Attorney General Goddard. I testified with him in front of House Homeland Security Committee in July on alien smuggling, and he was extremely excellent and has done a lot of really cutting-edge things that basically the congressmen were imploring the federal agents who are sitting at the table to take heed of and follow. So, my kudos to Attorney General Goddard. Let's look at what has worked in securing a completely out-of-control sector now. 4 to 5 years ago, when illegal and drug activity on the border was surging in western Arizona, we have to remember that this is not the first time we have serious drug cartel activity. It has happened before, and it has gotten under control. According to the Border Patrol, in January 2004, the Yuma sector borderlands owned by the Department of Interior and located in far western Arizona experienced a huge surge in illegal entries. There was no fence there. Agents were assaulted with rocks and weapons daily and outnumbered 50 to 1. In 2005, more than 2,700 load trucks full of aliens and drugs illegally breached that sector. Smugglers were leading masses through the desert, leaving sick and wounded to die. The smugglers didn't stop for agents, went in hot pursuit for vehicles. There were many crashes and many deaths. By 2005, 100,500 illegal aliens were apprehended, and the numbers were still increasing, just in 126 miles of sector. Today, the Yuma sector is relatively clean to its past. The Border Patrol can do its job. Apprehensions are down 94% to 8,500 in 2008. You don't hear about the Yuma sector much anymore. Why and how? In May 2006, President Bush announced Operation Jumpstart, deploying over 5,000 National Guard citizen soldiers and airmen to assist the Border Patrol in securing the boundary with Mexico. For the first time in 3 years, the numbers of illegal entries began to decrease, and according to then Governor Napolitano's 2006 Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs annual report, the Guard's job was far beyond being the eyes and ears of the Border Patrol. They were actively working on the border doing the following, and this is from her report. The Arizona National Guard, as well as the other southwest border states, was tasked to support Operation Jumpstart in coordination with DHS and the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. She said patrol instead of protection, but that's okay. Since July 2006, the Arizona Army National Guard has provided over 5,489 guardsmen to support missions along the international border with Mexico in Yuma and Tucson. The missions tasked the National Guard soldiers include, and listen to the breadth of this, surveillance, camera operations, vehicle maintenance support, aviation support, unprecedented amounts of tactical infrastructure, including 100 miles of border fencing covering all of Yuma with fencing or natural barriers. Entry identification teams along most of the border with Mexico, rescue operations of those left to die in the desert by smugglers or crash sites from high-speed chases. And here's the clincher, drug interdiction. In addition, there were 2 new Border Patrol stations in Yuma, a mobile surveillance sensors with ground radar as well. All the personal and tactical infrastructure were backed up by criminal prosecutions of illegal entrants known as Operation Streamline. Then Operation Stone Garden came in behind that and funded the localities, and this is still in effect, to help assist border security. So Arizona's local law enforcement could back up federal law enforcement, and that is still in effect today. This is the story, I think, that needs to be learned and listened from. I believe our current policies are boiling down to a form of capitulation, and working to make the border just as perceived as secure is not good enough. And actually, I would say it's lame. My view is that working together with the Guard appropriately and within traditional bounds, we can secure the border sector by sector. It's just that we have to have the will as a nation to make it happen.